On this episode of the People of Pearland podcast.
What is the purpose of Pearland ISD in public education? And for me, it's truly just making sure that every student that walks in our door is prepared to accept and take responsibility for the opportunities that come their way.
Stay tuned for more. We are recording. Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of the People of Pearland podcast. I will say a very, very special episode.
That's right.
Joe, why is it? Why is it a special episode?
We have a very special guest this time.
Very special guest this time. I'm so excited. I've been like itching all week just to do this episode.
Same, yeah.
We have with us the proud superintendent of Pearland Independent School District, Mr. Larry Berger.
Yay, crowd goes wild. Yep. Awesome. Special, the number of specials you gave me, my mama used to call me special. I'm not sure y'all meant it the same way that she meant it. I'm glad to be at the table. I'm glad to be the first guest outside of the city, and I'm excited about the conversation we're going to have.
Outside of the city of Pearland to be interviewed on the People of Pearland podcast. It's
going to be a good time. To the ones and ones of people that listen to the Building Blocks podcast that we have, I am now a guest and not a host, so it's kind of cool.
Nice, yeah.
That's wild. So you started as hosting that and then migrated to just being a guest on it, or you're still hosting that one. Have you ever been a guest on a podcast other than this one?
I have not.
Oh, wow.
Now, I'm hoping to do, this is going to kick off something we're going to do like a speaking tour, and I just go around to all the podcasts that are out there. Because I think everybody that has a phone now has a podcast.
That's true. That's true. That's actually how we decided to do this. We're like, we have phones, we have mouths, we talk.
Yeah. We can make a podcast.
We got this.
Yeah.
Throw it out in the world and see if anybody listens.
It was actually the one format we had talked about for a long time, and we were afraid because it kind of during COVID it kind of blew up. Podcasts really they got pretty popular because everybody's sitting at home,
right?
And we didn't do it during COVID. We did a lot of virtual stuff,
right?
And we were almost afraid that we'd sort of miss the boat on the podcast platform, but for us here. This People of Pearland podcast, we wanted a platform where we could have in-depth conversations with our employees, the 903 people that work for the City of Pearland, because...
if we're competing, Pearland ISD 2,547 employees.
Well, you are also, much more of the tax rate than we are too. So I'm just saying, when people complain about their taxes,
but
we don't talk to the school district.
We don't raise the water rate as often,
That's different. That's cost neutral, and that's only a $70 million a year enterprise that pays for itself through the water rates. It is expensive though.
It's kind of like when my wife goes shopping and all the money she saved by buying something because it was on sale.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
How many? Do you know how many miles of water line we have in Pearland?
How many miles of water line?
Miles.
Trivia question right off the bat. 7,000 miles of water line.
You're like the seventh grade. So we had some seventh graders from Junior High West yesterday. They were in to talk to us about government and things like that. And their answers were, extravagant. They think in big numbers. It's not 7,000. That's a lot. We have 580 miles. Yeah, 580 miles of water lines in the city of Pearland.
But if you could have a question where you want to lead kind of grandiose, how many miles? 580.
How many gallons? 580 miles? That's like from here to
What was that?
Florida.
Yeah, we did that math. Yeah.
Here from Florida.
So you could stretch them end to end and it would reach all the way to Florida.
Okay.
How many gallons of water do we produce on a daily basis? This is a big number. Wild guess.
10 million.
30 million.
Now, undershot it.
On average, people consume about 15 million gallons, so we have capacity there. But in the dry months especially, people consume a lot. They use a lot of water. So
but I give you a hard time. But in truth, the City of Pearland is moving forward. You just had the project I brought on board, the water treatment plant and all those things. And so great infrastructure is being done in Pearland.
Thank you, yeah. And it's one of the things that we hope people appreciate in terms of investing in the community, because that project alone, the surface water treatment plant, 20 plus years in the making, to date the largest capital project in the City of Pearland. it itself, so our capacity right now without the surface water treatment plant online is about 30 million gallons a day. That surface water treatment plant alone is 10 million gallons a day. So it increases our capacity, significantly.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you like that quick math?
That was good.
Pearland ISD education.
Ooh, man, math background. See, I didn't do that. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Radio and Television, so we do the math for people with fine arts degrees. But $170 million, right? And it's hard for me at least to wrap my head around. And so hopefully we're going to be touring that and showing people, water starts here and then it has to go all the way through the system. And it's a fascinating process. I've toured it a couple times myself and I always get a kick out
overwhelming.
of it.
But just overall, I mean, as complicated as may be or fascinating as may be, it's the fact that the investment into Pearland, the city of Pearland.
Right. And how that starts, right, with securing the water rights, anticipating where the growth is going to be, securing water rights based on estimates of how much demand there's going to be for water, making sure that it's sustainable, right, for the foreseeable future. And the two options really, at least in utilities like that, are you either invest in other people's infrastructures by paying to contract water and you're just paying the rates that they charge you, or you're building the infrastructure yourself. And we have a nice cross-section of ground wells, water that we purchased from the city of Houston, and then now surface water that we're going to be treating on our own. So we have a real strong diversity of sources of water for the city. So it is
forward thinking, forward planning. That's where you want to be.
And it's one of those things that we're talking about more just in terms of, they are different. The enterprise system and the rest of the local government, technically separate systems, but you look at any other business, any private industry business, and is there any other business that says we'll do security and we'll do home safety and we'll do road maintenance and reconstruction and we'll do water cleaning and nobody in the right mind would run the gamut of all of those things, and that's where local government fits in,
and very similar where public education fits in. Lots of things come under the building, the schoolhouse roof of public education. It's just not reading, writing, and math. It's all the other things that we do inside of a schoolhouse. So I completely understand what the city's talking about.
And a very, very important part to community, and especially the Pearland community, right? Education, in my opinion, is one of the reasons that people come here and choose this and why Pearland is the community of choice.
Well, I definitely piggyback when, Mayor Cole talks about a destination city. Part of the destination is the school district. We talk about how we build Pearland proud.
Right.
It's not just the ISD, it's the whole community. It takes all of us together. We just had that wonderful event this past weekend, Big Art Day, and to stand on that stage and see the community come together and celebrate what is great about our community. Awesome place to live.
So you talk about, you added proud sort of to the beginning of your title, and I've heard you say that a number of times. What made you want to do that? What's the motivation behind that?
It's really that. Everywhere that I go, when I'm able to visit a campus or work with kids or see teachers or see our parents and community giving back, you just stand there and you're proud. You're proud of what they're creating. You're proud of what they're developing. I had a student at the end of Big Art Day. I was standing there talking to a community member who was talking to me about some things, and you can see out of the corner of your eye somebody wanted to talk to you, and it was a gentleman. And I looked and I was like, I recognize that man. And it was a man. It was a former student. But he wanted to come up and say, Mr. Berger, I was in town. I just wanted to say hello. I wanted to introduce you to my wife and my kids, and I'm doing well.
Nice.
While I may not have done well in high school, and we had some rough conversations, I grew up and I matured. And the fact that he stood there and wanted to say, I did good, Mr. Berger. I did good. That's a proud moment. And
That's
just
awesome.
all of those come at you, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be able to say I'm the proud superintendent, because not what I do. True. I'm not proud of what I do. I'm proud of what we do. Yeah. And so it's awesome.
One of the things that sticks with me regularly, Mandy Benedict's from your organization, and just a quick plug for Rise Mentoring. If you're in the Pearland area and you're not already, you should be a Rise Mentor. I think that's the best program of all time. I wish every school district had it. But one of her common remarks is, with Rise Mentoring, so Rise Mentoring, sorry, I guess I should give more backstory to this if I'm going to talk about it. It's adults being a positive and consistent presence in children's lives within the Pearland Independent School District.
Correct.
So mentoring once a week, 30 minutes during the school day. I have a seventh grader that I've been connected with, and we have lunch every Wednesday at Pearland Junior High West, right down the road. And no, requirement. It's just showing up for them.
Just need to be present.
To be there, yep. And so Mandy says all the time, we're planting seeds for trees we may not see grow.
100%.
Right? And when you think about it like that, and I think about it from the community perspective too, but it is, that's true in everything. And you are literally taking people from, babies to
they come to us about
adults.
4 years old sometimes, all the way to 18.
Yeah. And then, you hope you've converted them into, fine, upstanding, producing members of
at the end of the day,
society.
people ask me often, what is the goal? What is the purpose of Pearland ISD and public education? And for me, it's truly just making sure that every student that walks in our door is prepared to accept and take responsibility for the opportunities that come their way. We don't know where they're going to go. We talk about career planning and college planning.
Right.
And you never know.
Right.
You just want to make sure that they have the skills and the talent and the confidence and the ability to accept whatever opportunity comes their way when it comes their way.
Yeah.
It's preparation and patience, ready for opportunity.
That's a tough combination. I think it takes a specific skill set to be able to do that well. I personally struggle with patience. That's why I say that. But, has your whole career been in education? Did you know
No.
you wanted... Really? Okay.
No.
So where did Mr. Berger come from?
You don't want to tell too many stories, but I was not a great student in high school. I was one of those kids. I got by,
Sure.
and sometimes you got by on compliance and charm more than academic aptitude. It happens.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think my college career is supposed to be 4 years. I think mine was 7, closer to 8.
Yeah.
I got some of those letters in the mail from universities saying, "Hey, why don't you take a break?"
Yeah.
And so my grandfather, I was waiting tables and bartending. I had no inclination. My grandfather kind of spoke to me and said, "Hey, you're kind of wasting your time. You're wasting your talent. I see more in you. Why don't you go back and finish school?" And so I did. I went back and finished school, and I got accepted to an alternative certification program. Always loved kids. Always been engaged in education as far as teaching, not necessarily academics, but just kids. Mm-hmm. And so I got caught on at Jack Yates High School as an alternative certification teacher. Had no idea what Jack Yates was or where it was in 3rd Ward, Houston, and loved it.
Wow.
And it was the bug. It bit me.
Wow.
I was like, this is what I want to do.
Right.
There's the passion of just being with kids. Never really had a plan. People ask you in interviews, it's the worst question that I can ever answer is, what's your 5-year plan?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have one.
No, yeah.
It's just whatever
I
comes
don't
my
know
way.
what 5 years is going to look like.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I was in the classroom, and then I moved from Houston back to Victoria, where I'm from. The superintendent of Victoria ISD came to me one day after I taught there for a while and said, "Hey, we need an assistant principal at our middle school." And I was like, "I don't know why you're talking to me. That's great." And he said, "We want you to do it." And I was like, "Well, I'm not certified to be an assistant principal."
Right.
He goes, "Well, we'll pay you and you go get certified." Wow. So then I was an assistant principal. I was there in a junior high, Patty Welder Junior High, with Mr. Calvin Singleton. Went to the 9th grade center, and then my wife, who's from Friendswood, wanted to move back to Pearland, and then I was blessed to be hired by Michelle Staley as the assistant principal at Pearland. And then almost 19 years later,
Wow.
I'm the superintendent of Pearland ISD.
So what year did you come to Pearland High School?
2006-07.
Okay.
I remember that day.
So class of 2001,
Yeah.
Pearland High School.
2008 for me. Yeah.
So y'all
That's
crossed
right.
paths.
That's right.
Did
I would have been the AP.
That's right. I
Right.
remember that.
After the year you graduated, I became, I was the 9th grade center principal when we opened that for about 2 weeks.
Okay. Yes.
And then Miss Staley left, and they made me the principal, and then I was the principal for almost 10 years, and loved every minute of it.
Awesome.
Did
Yeah.
you ever have to go to his office?
Oh,
Were you? Joe's an Eagle Scout, literally an Eagle Scout.
That's right,
I
yeah.
was the mediocre one. I was in the top 50% of my
Right,
class.
right, yeah.
So, we didn't cross paths. Otherwise, I don't think I ever ended up in the principal's office either. Now that I think about it, I wasn't a bad
There was
kid,
one
but-
instance that I did by proxy, and that was
guilty
yeah.
by association.
Yeah,
But the fun thing of it was, what I enjoyed about my assistant principalship and my principalship is you didn't have to get in trouble to come see me.
That's
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
I would try to be as visible as possible and,
Yep.
and be present. Just like we talked about the Rise mentoring. That's
Sure,
what
yeah.
matters, is being present.
Yeah.
I always say, and I still say it to this day, if our kids are playing tiddlywinks, I want to be there to support them.
Right.
Whatever they're doing, I want to be there to support them.
And has that always kind of been your mantra? You think that's sort of a cornerstone or a staple in your career? Is that positive connection. Because I see that, I think, with you in every interaction, right? You're just like, you're a people person, right? Is that an accurate description?
Only here. Because my wife will tell you when I get home, he's kind of grouchy. But but it's just, it's the power and the passion, that the energy that you get from kids. There's nothing like it. Like, we talk about podcasts and all the podcasts around, you get all the celebrities talking about the rush they get when they're on stage and the celebrity and all that feeling of when the crowd's cheering and everything else. I get that every time I interact with a child or with a student, because you get those aha moments, whether they're academic or fine arts or extracurricular, whatever they're doing, when that light turns on in their head and they feel that passion and that rush, you live off of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think every educator, every teacher in the classroom can speak to that, the power that they get from the kids.
I believe that. And I think that that's something we should take more lessons from, generally speaking, because I see it in my own children. So I have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and the way that they approach things, the lack of fear, because they've never experienced it, they've never had the disappointment, or they've never had the they're much easier at, or much better at, like, optimizing and breaking things. They haven't been slanted by everything that's influenced them. And some of it's a little frustrating to watch. Their ability to adapt to new things or to multitask in ways that I just can't even.
And then sometimes when they reach that level of they get to that first test that they're not good at, or that first class that's hard, or that first thing they fail at, whether it's they're trying for sports or fine arts or whatever it may be. And then helping them and watching them overcome.
Yep.
Watching that growth and that maturity, because only really through struggle do you grow.
Right.
And when they hit that struggle moment, stretch. You got to stretch your brain. You got to grow your brain. And so watching students be able to do that, just the resiliency they have.
Yep. This evening when I get home, I get to help my 12-year-old with a language arts project, because it's a big deal. And how do we take big projects? We break them down into bite sizes, and he's 7th grade now, so he's getting into the things are getting more complex and serious, and there's more at stake too. I mean, this year he tried out for solo and ensemble in band, and it didn't he didn't know how it was going to go. Didn't make it. It was a great opportunity for him to learn, and he even self-identified coming out. I need to get my music earlier. I need to practice more. I need to do and so.
I would equate that to some good home training too.
No, I mean
to be that reflective, to walk out. Maybe not you. Maybe mom.
Definitely
maybe wife.
More mom. Yeah. It took me a long time. I'm always shocked by how much I don't know as a parent, and how much, like, I'm not the first generation to raise children, and yet we're still figuring it out. Like, for the first, my poor first child, he was a guinea pig for everything.
Right.
Everything was an experiment with him. And fortunately, I mean, he seems, he's a good kid. He's got a good head on his shoulders. My wife, 100% all the credit. I just try to screw things up less and less every day. That
was
really
my handbook for parenting.
Yeah.
Both my boys, if they were here, they would probably tell some horror stories, but they've turned into great young men.
How you have 2 boys?
2 boys. I have Cody, who is a staff sergeant in the Army, currently stationed at Fort Lewis in Washington.
Wow.
He just re-upped for 3 more years. We were texting as I was coming over. Very proud of him. And then Kane is just started as a account executive in Cyprus with macaroons. They make mac pops, and macaroons are going all over the country.
Wow.
And so he's real excited. His second week on the job, he went to Vegas for a vendor show, and he was like, "Dad, guess what I'm doing?"
Oh, that's great.
Eating cake.
Yeah.
And
We went to Costco's and bought some. I was like, they're pretty good. They're pretty good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You don't get the family discount?
No discount, because I want him to stay out of the house, so I need to support his salary.
That's fair.
I don't want him coming back. It's not a boomerang.
Yeah. That's how you know you've made successful children.
Right. So going back, you came into Pearland 2006, 2007. What has changed? What feels different? How have you seen the growth here in Pearland since then?
Well, the growth obviously was seismic at a time. Pearland was growing so fast. I mean, we had to build Dawson High School, and everything was spreading that way. And what I've seen now is the contraction of that.
Right.
It grew really fast, and now infrastructure-wise and community-wise, we have to settle in. What I see from the vision now is the diversity of our community, the changing of our community. We have more influx of student need than maybe we had in the past, and we have to address those things. What we always talk about with our teachers is you can't get stuck in the mindset, if you've been teaching for 10 or 15 years, the kids you taught 10 or 15 years ago are not the kids sitting in your classroom now.
Sure.
So while education and TEKS are the same and the expectation is the same, the delivery might have to be a little bit different.
Right.
Yep.
And we can't underestimate the impact of social media and the mindset that's brought on, the attention that's brought on. But also we went through COVID. And coming out of COVID, we've had that academic gap. And outside of that academic gap, we had that social and behavioral gap.
Right.
And so just readjusting to those things, readjusting to a new normal, and making sure that we are addressing the needs of the students that are in the classrooms right now.
Right.
And not what we did 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Yeah, fascinating.
I'm currently reading a book that's called Think Again, and it's about like thinking like a scientist, right? So looking at something and saying this might have worked, doesn't anymore. What's
Correct.
the right? So iterative processes that because we faced this very similar. I mean, COVID was a very extreme example, but I think we still don't know what the long term
Without a
impacts,
doubt.
right? Or the amount of trauma that's associated with that'll take years to unpack. And I imagine, for developing minds especially, that is unbelievable.
And what we've seen is just if you look at trends, our reading scores and reading education has kind of caught back up. Mm-hmm. Math has not. And so we have to figure out where do we miss those math skills. Mm-hmm. Right now we're going through a C&I audit to make sure that the things we are doing are aligned, that what we're teaching and what we're assessing is all aligned, and what we're doing in the classroom makes sense. I'm secondary mindset. So what they talk about is in elementary, you teach students how to read,
right.
And then as they get out of elementary, they read to learn.
Yep. You
And
teach them how to learn, and then they
Right.
Yeah.
And so what we have to focus on, what I've seen is we need to get down and focus on our elementary level and making sure that they are leaving the fourth grade reading on grade level.
Yeah.
Because if we don't have our students reading on grade level and they start entering middle school and junior high and high school and not reading where they need to be,
Mm-hmm.
we're handicapping them.
Sure.
We're not setting them up for success. So that's kind of our focus, is pushing that down. Let's make sure we get back to that early intervention. Let's close those gaps early, because once they get into fifth through senior year, it's just going to spread.
Well, and I am sure I've seen it. I have a friend that's a principal at one of your elementary schools, and talking through, all of the influences, all the things that you have to take into consideration, right? External factors, nutrition. There are so many components to it, and so many things outside of your control that I would imagine is an interesting challenge, but can be frustrating at the same time.
It can be, and it's something that we have to focus on and realize. That's kind of what the question you said about what has changed the most. Pearland, back when I came in 2006, the students that were coming to the schools had a lot of outside experiences,
Mm-hmm.
had a lot outside exposure. Not so much now. The students that are coming to us don't all have the same experiences and exposures, and so you have that varying level of degree that impacts academic learning.
Yeah.
And so we have to adjust to that.
And then as far as like the size of the school district, so we talk about, explosive growth. So it exploded, and then it sort of,
Yeah, we're plateaued.
It's stabilized, right?
Yes, sir.
So
we're actually plateaued and declining.
Okay.
We're at just over 21,000 students. There's not a lot of growth. We
It's
don't
almost as big as the city of Friendswood.
crazy.
Totally
Yeah,
speaking.
21,000.
I mean, you walk into Pearland High School when you were there. I mean, there's 3,400 kids.
Right.
Yeah.
At Dawson, there's 2,500. At Turner, there's 1,200.
Yeah.
But what we have right now is we have a trend of we're graduating more students than we have kindergartners coming in. And part of that is the, as you know, the
Median
City of
age,
Pearland.
yep.
We're have a new housing development right across from Pearland High School we got excited about, but then they put up a sign that says, starting at $400,000.
Yeah.
Well, that's not a starter home, so
Right.
we're not going to have families moving in.
Yeah, the median age is getting older.
Yes,
Right.
kids aren't there, and so that's why we do open transfers. We have students that want to come to Pearland but may not be living in Pearland, so we do that. And then we're also competing with the political environment in public schools, and we have charters coming into Pearland. And so, people ask me all the time, "What's my thought on that?" And we're not not going to get into political things, but the bottom line is, if you want to open up competition, I'm ready.
Right.
Because I'll line up Pearland ISD against anybody, and we will compete.
Yeah, I'm obviously fond of it. I have friends up in the Northeast, and it's a different landscape up there completely. And they send their children to private school, and there's no judgment, no shade there. But I always come back to I got my education in public school. I went to a state university, and I can pay my bills and I can feed my family and I have a roof over my head,
you have your own podcast.
I have my own YouTube channel.
You made it.
Yeah. I'm like, yeah. If you have your own cable channel, you can stop.
That's right. Yeah.
But it's.
Do you have musical guests?
They have hidden musical talents, but we don't. We haven't gotten to the point where we have a full stage set up. That's the next stage. Wait till you see the new podcast studio. But I'm a big fan of public education, and similarly to city employees, I think I'm fortunate to get to meet and work with a lot of ISD employees, and I have to say, I mean, you're everybody that. The people that I've gotten exposure to, they're cut from a completely different cloth. Their commitment and, attitude about the job that they do and the level of passion they have for it is unparalleled. I don't think you see that. You'll probably see it in other municipalities and school districts and things like that, but I don't think you get that in other industries outside of public education.
Well, I agree with that because it goes back to what you get back.
Right.
I mean, educators that invest, and when I say educators, all of Pearland ISD is that. One thing we did in maintenance and operation is the slogan that we put out there is, we serve success. Because the success that happens in this district couldn't happen if our custodians weren't taking care of the campuses, if our maintenance and operations weren't, if our bus drivers weren't driving, if our food service wasn't feeding. So we're all one team serving the academic success of our district.
Sure.
But when you do that, what you get back is tenfold.
So your custodial staff, do you, when you talk about that, like a mission statement for them, do they buy into it? Do 100%. They see that vision, that clarity?
100%.
Yeah.
I had the fortunate pleasure, after being the principal of Pearland High School, I became the director of maintenance and operations, which oversees the custodial department.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
And so I have worked with custodians my whole life, but really didn't know what they did, on a day-to-day basis. And I'd always see they would work so hard and do so much, and I witnessed that, and I was like, can't you just take a step back?
Right.
Do you have to do all the things that you're doing? And to a person, they would tell me, Los Niños, we have to do it for the kids. Mm-hmm. They believe in it wholeheartedly. They don't do it for a paycheck.
Sure.
They do it because they love the kids and know the kids need it.
Yeah. So I would imagine, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I have a feeling I know how this shakes out. But
let's see.
So we talk a lot. We have 907 employees in the city of Pearland. And we are, for the amount of work that we do, the number of officers we have on the street, the number of firefighters, things like that, we're still a very lean organization. Mm-hmm. And I do a conversation with new hires to point out the fact that we don't have warm bodies and seats, right? Every person has a very specific impact and contribution and impact, right? And if they don't show up and they don't contribute, then that impact is negative.
Correct.
Right? I would imagine you all have the same sort of experience where if everybody's pulling their weight and doing what they've signed up to do, and then I know a lot of them are going well above and beyond that, then you run harmoniously. But the second people phone it in or don't show up at all, the wheels start to come off of it.
Well, I would say that what we push out there is a shared accountability.
Yeah.
You can't do this by yourself.
Right.
You have to have a team of support. Everything that we do has support behind it. And so if you're not holding each other accountable, it can turn into that to where we're phoning it in or the stress gets to you. But the other piece of that is you have to recognize it, because the stress level with being an educator or being in the classroom or being on the campus, there are days where you need to take a day.
Sure.
And that's where the other part of our team steps up, which is our great substitutes. The people that come into the classroom and go, okay, the teacher's not here today for either professional development or they just had something going on in their life. Let me step in, and they're part of that team, and they have the same passion. I mean, it has to be a culture of we all believe everything that we do each and every day is done to build Pearland proud. And I say that all the time, but that's the culture that we are, and it's contagious, it's infectious.
It is,
and that's what we want to push.
But it can be difficult. I mean, for any entity, any organization, public or private, to create that solidarity and long-term vision, right? To give people to say, look, this is where we're headed, and here's how we're going to get there. I mean, those pillars are vital to running, a smooth operation, and it's never going to be perfect.
And that's because, and what I hold on is it's build.
Yeah,
it's a process. It's not built.
Right.
We haven't built it proud.
Right.
We're building. We build. It's a process. It's
that's
ongoing.
Very intentional.
Yeah, well, because I know that we serve 21,000 plus students. So that's 50,000 guardians, parents, grandparents, community members. There's going to be occasions that things go wrong.
Yeah.
That we either miss something or step wrong or say something wrong or do something wrong, and we have to fix it and adjust it. We have to be accountable to our community, to our stakeholders, to our customers. And when it goes wrong, we need to hear about it. We can't placate. We can't hide behind the words. We have to stand up and say, we didn't do that right, but we want to do it better.
Yep.
And so let us make mistakes. We don't want to, but also let us correct those mistakes.
Yep. We talk a lot about the organizational integrity. And one of my beliefs, any City of Pearland employee, when they have a logoed shirt or they're driving a Pearland water truck or, whatever the case may be, every interaction they have, every email they send out, every phone call either adds to or takes away from our integrity as an organization. And hopefully we're adding to it more than we're taking away from it, because there are situations where things go sideways and we need to be able to say, you need to run, you need to hide, or, hey, we messed this up, here's how we're making it right. And we are fortunate to have the leadership and the support to be able to have very, sometimes tough conversations about, very serious things. And they're not going to get any easier, but at least we have the safety to say, we're human beings, we made a mistake, right? And I think that's hopefully that's something that people don't take for granted, because not every organization is like that.
And it's difficult because there's not a more precious possession you have than your two children.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that you have to trust us and send them to Pearland ISD, we want to give that trust back. It needs to be a mutual collaboration. Yeah. And so that only happens through transparency and conversation and collaboration and understanding. Yeah. So we definitely want that, and we preach that. And that's why, I give my email out, I give my phone number out, I'm available, let's talk, and sometimes to a fault, because there are layers of leadership, there are layers of communication and communication channels, and I cannot respond to everybody, but at the end of the day, we're all accountable to each other.
Right. I think that's fantastic, and we appreciate it. I mean, I see you, I feel like, a lot, and I've never seen you act any differently than you are right now. I mean, you seem to be very transparent and very passionate about what you do, which we appreciate.
To a fault.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you can have too much passion, especially when it comes to education, and public education for sure. We always like to wrap these up. We do a lot of conversations about why exercises.
Because I'm
Simon,
fat?
What?
Why exercise? Because I'm fat?
Why exercise?
That's fantastic.
We're fat shaming
that
right
was
now.
fat.
That was really good.
Golly, it took me a minute.
Fantastic.
No, the more esoteric. We started this.
Well, if you want to get into deep conversations, we're in trouble.
No, Simon Sinek, the Find Your Why concept. So we have it at the City of Pearland, and we've structured it in a number of different ways, but our strategic priority is what we provide to the community and our core values, how we do it, and then the community itself, right? The essential city services are why we exist as an organization. And so we encourage our employees to think about that, the contribution that they make and the impact that it has.
I've had the pleasure to be in on some of y'all's leadership symposiums and the things that y'all do. Right. Yeah. They're very impressive. I mean, because you bring the whole team together. It's not the upper leadership and the lower leadership or the grounds guys or whatever, the auxiliary or whatever, maintenance and operation. You bring everybody together no matter what department you're leading, and you speak to that. I mean, it is a true statement. It's not just wordsmithing it. Y'all actually walk the walk and talk the talk.
We try to promote leadership at all levels because we try to deliver against being a high performing organization, which encourages that. And to me, the why we do what we do, our individual positions up to the divisions, the departments in the organization, being able to stitch those together starts to create that clarity of vision and
synergy.
And yep, exactly. So your personal why? What gets you up out of bed every day?
Well, it's a running joke. I get up out of bed every day about 3:00 in the morning. My brain just turns on.
Have you always been like that?
Yes.
Whew.
Ever since I started in the public education domain.
Wow. I'm going to have you start. I'm going to see if you build my alarm clock for me.
I'll be glad to. I'll drive by and wake you up. But my personal why, and it's probably cliche, are three people. It's my wife and my two boys.
Sure.
Because everything I do, when you talked about when you're wearing the City of Pearland logo, whatever you do, whatever you say, you're representing that.
Yep.
As Larry Berger, the husband and father, everything I do, everything I say reflects them.
Sure.
And the lessons that I say or the things that I've done and even the things I don't say but they watch me do, I want it to reflect what I want to be as a man and what I want them to see me as so that they can, when those opportunities, issues, or challenges are before them, they have an example to look back on and go, well, this is what Dad did, or this is what my husband did. This is what we need to do.
Yep.
And to be able to be a provider and a supporter and a cheerleader and just love them.
That's great. That's interesting because I was actually just thinking about this the other day. I'm fortunate to have my dad's always been in my life and always been a good influence. And his father was exactly the same way. And he passed away years ago, almost 96. So what's that math? 2020.
You figure it out.
It's 28 years. Sorry, 28 years. Took me a second there. So
we can't always give the answer.
20.
There's an assessment every once in a while.
Thank you for helping me stretch it. But I still hear him in my head in a lot of the things that I do, and because of that gentle influence. And I think about that with my own boys too, and I hope that there will be that. When they're about to make a bad choice or about to do something, they'll hear that. Oh no! Yep. Oh yeah, Dad would have done this. Or
and what's so cool about that? Now we can get off on this. Is I have seen moments in my adult boys when they have had adversity. Specifically, my staff sergeant of the Army who went through injury. He was a paratrooper, jumped out, had compartment syndrome, struggling, just ready to give up on everything, and didn't, and fought through with that resiliency. And when you ask him why, he points back to what my expectations and everything else. And that's not a humble brag or anything else. That's really a brag of my son. Yeah. But just to see that and go, man, that happened. Yeah. And so how can you not be motivated when you're tired or you don't want to go to work or you don't want to go to that meeting? Stop being lazy. Get up and do what you need to do and tackle the day.
That's it.
That's awesome.
Man, words to live by. Words to live by.
There you go. I'm inspired.
I'm gonna start making bumper stickers. Or something. I got. Any final words? Final thoughts? Words of wisdom.
What was okay? Quick question. You got a great series called Berger Tries or what's
Schooling Berger?
Schooling Berger. Yes, that's great.
I appreciate you calling it great.
I love
think
it.
It's
I
great.
love that. Yeah. So what was harder, welding or drumming?
Drumming.
Okay.
Yeah. I failed at both. Don't get me wrong. I failed at both. If you haven't noticed through all of those things, I have zero talent, and I'm not afraid to show that. I can't even do a full circle in ROTC. But I have no musical talent. It wasn't a joke when I said that. like a Big Art Day, anybody that has a fine art talent, whether it's music or singing or drawing or painting, I so admire that.
Yeah.
Because I have none ability to do that. I would love to be able to do it, but I have no ability to do it. And so drumming was my left hand. I felt like it was asleep or it was a zombie hand. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't do what I needed to do. But those segments are a blast because the kids are schooling me.
Yeah.
They're teaching me and it's just being able to make that connection.
That's
with
awesome.
It's a lot of fun. And so I try to steer away from the athletics. I did the volleyball to start. I've been asked to come out and play football or go to soccer or play basketball.
Yeah.
And those would be so humiliating. I would just get crushed.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if the workers' comp covers that.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, I get asked all the time. I'm not a small person, but I get asked all the time. Were you an athlete? Do you count riding the bench as athletic? That's what I did. So
Awesome.
no.
Well, if you ever need lessons in drumming, he was the drum major.
That's right. Yeah.
And I'm learning how to weld,
there you
so
go.
we can work on that together.
Well, we have a great facility. They can teach you over there.
I would love that.
That would
me,
be
and
awesome.
Yeah.
And I still have those 2 crossing hammers that they welded together in my office, and so
Great.
it's a beautiful thing.
That's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Well, that's all we got for today. Thank you for joining us. Check out Superintendent Berger's podcast and all of his
Building
content.
Blocks podcast. Check it
Building
out anywhere
Blocks.
you are. Spotify, Apple. What else that you can get onto? YouTube.
Yeah.
All the things. Check out the Pearland ISD YouTube channel too. Laura does a fantastic job putting all that content.
We're
on
not
there.
even on the Building Blocks podcast, and producer Matt gets a call out.
Well, thank you for joining us today.
I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
And
I hope this is the most listened to outside of the city employee podcast ever.
well, because you're going to make all the teachers listen to it. So we'll
I don't make them do anything. So
Oh, okay. You'll ask them to listen to it.
Awesome.
Thank y'all. Have a good day.
appreciate it.